What if I told you there's a man who declared he had $77 million when he didn't have a cent, and the universe responded? This isn't fiction. It's not motivational nonsense. It's a real story about the power of the spoken word when aligned with faith. His name was Jim, an ordinary man facing extraordinary debt. Bankruptcy was knocking at his door. Creditors were calling daily, and every financial advisor told him the same thing: you're finished. But Jim had been studying the teachings of Florence Scovel Shinn, and he understood something most people never grasp. The word is not just sound, it's creative force. It's the bridge between the invisible and the visible. So one morning, standing in his empty office with bills piled on his desk, Jim did something crazy. He looked in the mirror and declared with absolute conviction, I have $77 million. I am supplied by God in every area. I am wealthy, blessed, and abundant. His voice didn't tremble. His heart didn't doubt. He spoke as if it were already true. And that declaration became the turning point of his entire life. If you're still with me, you can already feel there's something powerful here. So go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the Awaken Lord channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single word that could transform your life. This helps spread the message and reach more people who need to wake up. I believe you didn't arrive here by accident. There's a calling on your life, and maybe all that was missing was a word that reminds you who you are, a word that reconnects you with your divine essence. A word that frees you from the prison of doubt and takes you to the place of promise. Jim's story is fascinating because it reveals a spiritual law that most people ignore. Faith is not silent. Faith declares. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that spoken faith is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, and Jim lived that truth. After making that declaration, he didn't sit around waiting for a miracle to fall from the sky. He acted with the conviction of someone who already possessed what he declared. He started making business calls, scheduling meetings, presenting projects. But what changed wasn't his strategy, it was his posture. He was no longer speaking as a desperate man. He was speaking as an heir. He was no longer begging for opportunities. He was attracting them. And people began to notice something different in him. An authority, a certainty, a peace that didn't match his circumstances. Within 3 months, Jim closed a business deal that generated exactly $77 million. Not 76, not 78, exactly what he had declared. When he told me this story, tears streaming down his face, he said something I'll never forget. It wasn't magic, it was alignment. I aligned my mouth with God's truth, and the universe had no choice but to respond. Florence Scovel Shinn used to say that the word is a form of personal prophecy. When we say I am, we're invoking an identity, and that identity begins to manifest. If you say I am defeated, the universe responds with situations that confirm that declaration. But if you say I am blessed, you begin to attract blessings. Jim understood this, and he chose to declare what he believed, not what he saw. This principle isn't exclusive to money. It works in every area: health, relationships, purpose, peace. The word is a spiritual key. When used with faith, it opens doors that have been locked for years. It moves the invisible. It touches God's heart. It aligns our spirit with divine purpose. And the most impressive thing is that this key is available to everyone. It doesn't matter your story, your religion, your current condition. If you have faith and a word, you have everything. Because God doesn't respond to desperation. He responds to faith. And faith is expressed through the word. Jim also learned something crucial. Declaration must be consistent. He couldn't say, I have 77 million one day, and the next day complain about scarcity. The word needs to be coherent with faith, and that coherence creates spiritual authority. It creates an atmosphere where miracles can happen. Every morning he would declare, I am guided by God. Everything works together for my good. I am supplied in all areas. And these phrases became invisible shields. They protected him, directed him, strengthened him. It wasn't superstition. It was spiritual alignment. It was recognizing that the word is God in movement. And when he spoke with faith, he moved with him. But Jim's story also teaches us about spiritual responsibility. If the word is the channel, we need to take care of what we speak. We need to watch our mouth, align our language with God's truth. We can't say, I trust, and then murmur. We can't declare, I am prosperous, and then complain about scarcity. The word is a spiritual lever, and we are the ones who control that lever. Jim cleaned up his vocabulary. He stopped saying things like, nothing works for me, my life is difficult, I can't. He replaced every limiting phrase with a declaration of faith. Everything is possible for me. I am supplied by God. There is a perfect way out. And these words began to shape his reality. It was as if heaven was waiting for him to speak with faith. Today, Jim is a completely different man. He still faces challenges, like all of us, but now he faces them with faith, with words that build, not destroy, with declarations that open paths, not close doors. And it all started with a phrase that awakened him, a phrase that made him see that the mouth can be an instrument of blessing or curse. And he chose to bless. He chose to declare life. He chose to activate heaven with his voice. When I asked him what advice he would give to someone who's facing impossible circumstances, he said, don't wait for everything to change to start declaring. You need to declare for everything to start changing. That's the key. That's the secret. That's the path. The spoken word has a power that thought doesn't reach. When Jim said, I have $77 million, even facing bankruptcy, he was activating abundance. When he said, I am prosperous, even facing debt, he was positioning himself spiritually. The word is a seed, and God is the fertile soil. What we plant with faith flourishes, and what we repeat with fear also flourishes. That's why we must choose to plant faith. This revelation can change your life if you decide to apply it. Stop cursing your life with your mouth. Stop declaring what you fear and start declaring what you believe. Because faith that receives is faith that declares. I know you might be facing challenges right now. Maybe you're tired, discouraged, without strength. But I want to remind you, the word has power, and you have access to that power. You don't need to wait for everything to change to start declaring. You need to declare for everything to start changing. This is the key. This is the secret. This is the path, and it's before you now. Just choose, just speak, just believe. The spiritual journey isn't about perfection. It's about intention. It's about presence. It's about faith. And faith begins with a word that says, I am ready. A word that says, I trust. A word that says, I receive. And when you say that with truth, heaven listens, heaven moves, heaven responds. If this message touched your heart, I ask you to like this video, share it with someone who needs to wake up, and subscribe here to the Awaken Lord channel. This isn't just about numbers. It's about mission. It's about spreading light. It's about creating a network of faith that transforms lives. Every share, every subscription is a seed planted. And I believe these seeds will flourish in many hearts, because when the word is released with faith, it never returns empty. Continue declaring, continue believing, continue awakening, because heaven is listening and heaven is acting. In the next video, I'll show you how to use the word to break spiritual cycles and open doors that have been locked for years. It's going to be a powerful continuation of this journey. So turn on that notification bell so you don't miss it. Because when you speak with faith, heaven listens. And when heaven listens, everything begins to change.